Guys, it's an interesting thing for me when I get to interview athletes that have competed at the highest level because it reminds me of my childhood. As you guys have, followed my journey here, followed the show, I've had many athletes that have joined the show that, competed when I was younger. And so it kind of is a nostalgic feeling for me. Well, today it's no different. Bringing on a former NFL quarterback that you guys are going to love his story. We're talking about his Optimist football days. We're talking about his high school football days. We're talking about his collegiate football days and all the way into the professional level, as well as what he's doing with his business. And part of this show is to kind of explain to everybody how sports can translate into your regular life. You can learn a lot of principles through sports that you can translate into your business world, in your business life, your marriage, and so forth. And you're going to see that naturally through this conversation, just the different things that you learn throughout competing that you can transfer into your regular life. We're going to learn about his business ventures. This is going to be an amazing interview. I hope you guys all enjoy it. If you're following me on YouTube, you'll notice that I'm starting to put some stuff off in the background, so it's not just a blank wall. But if you're not following me on YouTube, go to YouTube and help me grow that channel as well. I'm also going to be adding more to my blog. So if you go to blog.thegametimeguru.com, you're going to be able to follow some of the stories. I'm going to start posting more content there, just some of the lessons that I've learned through doing this podcast over the last 6.5 years. I'm just grateful for every one of you guys for tuning in. I would appreciate any kind of support by sharing the podcast. But I hope you guys buckle up and get ready to take some notes for today's interview. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show, 6.5 years running, and we are now crossed over 300 total episodes. Just super excited to be here with you guys. Weekly episodes. If you're new to the show, just know that the rundown of this podcast is I interview sports figures on a weekly basis. Every Friday, we're posting a new interview where you can learn from our guests the ins and outs. We learn about their story. We learn about anything they're doing, and they share their knowledge with us. So if it's your first time listening to the show, welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you with us. We're in 180 countries, all 50 states at the time of this recording. And it's thanks in large part to everybody who's listened and shared or just been part of the podcast. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been part of it. Today's another super special interview for me. There's some Idaho ties to this. So some people might listen to this and be like, how in the world did you get this guest on your show? But there are some Idaho ties. Like, I've always known who this guy is since the time I was a little kid, just because of the ties here locally to where I live, which is in the Treasure Valley of Idaho, which is the surrounding area of Boise. And it's just interesting because, growing up, I played it was called Optimist football, which is like Pop Warner or Pee Wee football and stuff. And my second year of tackle football, they opened up this brand new facility, not facility, it was like this whole new area of Optimist. We used to play at Capitol High School, and then we outgrew it because the Little League football is getting too big. And everyone was talking about Jake Plummer helped with this, and Jake Plummer's helped with that. His name comes up all the time. So it's interesting because I've known Jake just in the back of my mind. Then watching him play football has been an amazing thing for me. So I'm glad to bring on a former NFL quarterback, former, Idahoan, Capitol High School guy, Arizona State guy, and now a businessman, entrepreneur, everything. His name is Jake Plummer, as I said before. Jake, thanks so much for joining the show, man.
Hey, right on, Shane. Thanks for having me, man. That's cool. You bring up that Optimist field. That's where my mom, she still goes down and walks down there every day and walks by the sign and, made a donation to help secure a space where these kids could still go and play and pursue their dream and not have to, like when I played Optimist, we'd go to the fairgrounds and we'd play on the grass that was also used as a parking lot. So, we had to comb the field before the game and pick up bottles and bottle caps and anything that could cut you or hurt you. And, it's come a long ways, and that facility is really cool. So thanks for bringing that up, because that was definitely, something you do. And to hear that you played there and so many other youngsters have played there is really cool.
Absolutely, man. It's wild because I was part of the transitioning group that went from the one to the next. And I remember our very first game. I know exactly what happened in that game too. Is second year of tackle football, and just how it was so different. the energy out there was different. It's just a wide open field with multiple fields, and it was beautiful. Now they've even like expanded that since back then. It's just wild to see the growth of football. But yeah, and then what's funny, Jake, is I grew up. I'm a Meridian High School grad, class of 06. So playing at Capitol High School, the conversation was always like, dude, Capitol's got this sick scoreboard in the middle of their gym. Like, and then everyone's like, oh, well, I heard Jake Plummer donated towards it or whatever. It's like your name always came up somewhere. So it was whether it was an Optimist football or it was playing against Capitol High School, your name was there. So I want to kind of rewind the clock a little bit, Jake, and kind of go back in time with you. Obviously we're going to get to your NFL experience, kind of learn about your journey and then, business ventures and whatnot. But let's rewind the clock. You talked about Optimist football. From my understanding, you were a multi-sport athlete, but at what point did you start playing football and actually taking it seriously? Was it Optimist? Was that the first time playing? And talk to us about that when you actually started getting into sports. And was there an influence of parents or a player that you followed when you were a little kid?
Yeah, it's funny you say I was a multi-sport athlete. I still am, even in this day and age, and even when I was playing, whether it was ASU or in the pros, for me, man, the off season was basketball. I loved playing hoops. It was a great way to condition. It was a great way to stay active, to build camaraderie, to compete. And people would nowadays like, oh my God, I don't even go near the hoops court because if I get hurt, there goes my career. And what? Football is going to take this away from me? I'm sorry. It took enough stuff away from me that I'm not going to allow it to take something like that away. So even during my time playing at the highest level, I was playing handball, playing basketball, being active, mountain biking, doing a lot of stuff in the off season. And, Optimist was my first, time to go into organized football. And, the reason I was able to go play was I told my mom, hey mom, you don't want me to play tackle football, but I'm playing it at recess without pads. So if I wear pads, I'm going to be safer or a little more safe. And so she let me go play. And, that was just one sport. Even throughout my high school career, by the time football was done, it was like, okay, good, that's over. I can let my body heal and start playing hoops. By the time hoop season was coming into an end, it was like, oh, sweet. Where's my mitt? I can't wait to go play baseball. And so I've always enjoyed all sports. And that really was my brother's influence. We were constantly playing. I'd come home from football practice and we'd go up and shoot hoops. Or I'd come home in the winter, and if it was a warm day, sometimes we'd get those in Boise. The mitts would be sitting out. The baseball mitts would be sitting out. So we'd be throwing the baseball during basketball season. And it's like kids do that now, but it's all organized. It's all scripted. It's all with a coach. And I think that's good, but it's also – it's fun to be free sometimes. My summers were spent in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho from the 5th grade on. And I wasn't up there with a QB guru working on my drop and my follow through and reading coverages. Man, I was playing hoops at the city beach against grownups and holding my own and learning all right, this is what it takes to compete, and learning a lot about myself. At the same time, while I was playing tennis with my brothers or handball, or hacky sack or ping pong or mountain biking or you name it. You don't have to play your sport to get better at it. All sports will hone your hand-eye coordination and challenge you to excel. And so, yeah, man, I've been a fan of the multiple sports my whole life. I encourage kids to do that. Even if they don't make the team, at least go shoot hoops or try to participate in something other than just one sport.
Man, that's awesome news. And that's what I try to tell the kids that I coach. I coach basketball, the 17-year-olds at the club level. So I try to tell these kids, something similar, get out there and do some other things. But like you said, it is pretty much always organized. That's a very interesting take because even from the time, I'm a few years younger than you. I'm 34. So, but even then, it seems like things have changed quite a bit. Like everything you're saying there, I can resonate with a lot of that. I can relate to a lot of that. And it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was a kid too.
Specialization is a tough thing because I don't think I would have been the quarterback I was at the college level and the pros without my diversification from other sports. It taught me to be aware of my surroundings, which in any sport, you need to know what's around you. And then also just the competition and the variation. I never got tired of my sport because I was always in dabbling in other things too. And, you know, it reminds me about something that's coming up June 3rd in Boise at Bishop Kelly High School, the Plummer Family Skills and Thrills Challenge. And so we created a camp. It's a free camp, one day. Kids come and we introduce them to badminton, ping pong, one-wall handball. We play bump. We play games. We don't play the sport that they're used to in an organized fashion, but we instead get creative in the game and make it different and fun. And one of the stations is always just like a bunch of stuff set out, and we let the kids create a game themselves or invent a different type of game themselves. And my thought behind it is just to allow these kids an opportunity to get off your phone, get out of your house, get off your couch, and introduce a game into your neighborhood or your family or whatever it is, and something that will help you, you know, kind of sometimes break away from the constant progression of getting better and honing your craft and practicing your craft and getting into the cage when you're 12 years old. Like, what the hell, man? 12-year-olds should be playing can jam or cornhole or horseshoes or trampoline dodgeball or something else besides honing your craft, because that's how we create burnout. That's how we create stress. That's how we create kids never living up to the expectations of the coach or the guru or their dad or whatever. And instead we teach them how to enjoy the game and the nuances of it, and really have a love for sport in general and game in general. That way, you know, the game means something more than just winning and losing and being the best.
Yo, man, this is wild. Like, I'm like getting chills just listening to you talk, man. And I know I'm trying to like not fanboy right now, but I'm like, man, it's so perfect.
Cool.
And it's funny you mentioned can jam and all that stuff too, because I was just talking to one of the players that I coached last night. He's finishing up his basketball season now. Like, this will be his last tournament that he plays in an organized basketball capacity. And we were talking about what's going to happen after high school. And he was talking about spike ball. He's like, you should get into some spike ball tournaments. I'm like, dude, you should be doing that anyway right now. Like, spike ball is one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, that's true. But any of those, man, like, yeah, the hacky sack, you know, who hacky sacks anymore? I mean, it's just that's a great workout, and it's a great foot-eye coordination, and it's fun, man. You know, you can do it out in a park. You don't need anything but a little hacky sack and some friends.
Yeah, dude, totally. Well, Jake, as you get into like your high school career, right? As you know, you're playing multiple sports, like we were just talking about, and you know, even the traditional sports, basketball. To my understanding, it was basketball, baseball, and football, right? If those ones. Okay, so as you were getting into high school, this is what's interesting to me is like being around the high school athletics now, especially in Idaho. The competition at the next level is quite a bit different than Idaho athletics. So for you going from a high school in Idaho to then a Division I, and not only just a Division I, a pretty, you know, it's a very well-known Division I school in Arizona State, and actually competing very well and playing at a very high level there too. I guess my biggest question would be, how did you prepare for that jump? Because all these athletes, they think they've got it, and they even struggle at the jump to go to junior colleges because the competition is so much higher. So I guess my question is, how did you prepare for that jump to the Division I level to not just be there, but actually compete at the high level of that spot?
Yeah, I mean, that was really, if you want to talk about the summer, that was the first summer I actually spent, you know, working out, football specific. Now, it doesn't mean the weight room. I didn't hit a weight room until I got to college. You know, I felt like the weight room was a waste of my time to be an athlete, and I did other things, chin-ups, push-ups, jumped rope, and rode my bike, and I was active all the time. So I didn't really get into the weight room till I got to college. But, you know, I think what gave me a lot of confidence was going to the Stanford quarterback receiver camp before my senior year. And being from Idaho, I was mentioned in some magazines, a couple, but very few of these publications that were, you know, touting the top guys in high school coming out. I wasn't amongst that, and I didn't know that I had the ability to go to that next level, but I knew like that I loved the game, and I was like, right now football's probably my ticket to get an education, you know, to not have to have my parents pay for my school, to actually get a scholarship and be able to go and get an education. My dream was still alive to be in the NFL and win a Super Bowl. I mean, that's what was the far reaches, but along the way there were steps that I had to take, and you know, one of them was obviously even stepping onto the field as in varsity. I was in the sophomore team getting my ass kicked. We had a horrible team, and I threw 2 completions in a game against Nampa, and those were both interceptions, and I got sacked like 13 times and beat to hell. And Coach Vogel, bless his soul, and we lost him last year. What a great coach he was for so many kids. He pulled me up to the varsity as a sophomore, and I thought, wow, I'm on varsity now. I'm playing like crap, but I'm on varsity. But he did it to save me from getting hurt and to help me to not to avoid hating the game, because it wasn't fun and it wasn't football the way I wanted to play. And so that was a confidence boost. And then getting to be able to start as a junior, win a state title, and then losing the state title my senior year. That Stanford camp really, back to that, was like when Bill Walsh grabbed me and 9 other guys from that camp, quarterbacks, and took us to a room and like specifically focused on coaching us. It was like, whoa, here's Bill Walsh. I mean, Bill Walsh, Coach Joe Montana, one of the most clutch quarterbacks you'll ever meet, and a great player and like a good dude. He sees me as level with these other guys that are 4-star recruits and blue chip All-Americans and all this. It really was a confidence boost to say, okay, there's something here. I mean, I've got something if I just keep playing hard and be a leader and do my thing. So that was really big. And then getting recruited after that, I got recruited by a lot of colleges all around the country. That was a confidence boost. And if these, the biggest schools that I've been watching on Saturdays are now sending me letters and recruiting me, I figured I had a chance. I had a chance to play at that next level, or at least I had the talent. And I knew all along, confidence in myself. But then when ASU recruited me and Bruce Snyder said, you're a huge integral part of what we're trying to build here, and that's a national championship team. That was really the boost I needed and the confidence I needed to know, okay, I can go to this next level. I'm not scared of this. And when I got there, it was a whole new learning process, man. I learned about cover 3 and cover 2, and then all kinds of other things that I didn't know anything about in high school. I was just balling, and it was challenging, but again, the level wasn't the same as going to the next level of Pac-10 at the time. But I was able to raise my game and, had support from my brothers and my family, and just had that confidence in myself and, worked my ass off, really.
No, I love hearing that, man. That's super cool. And, it's funny because when I talk to like high school athletes right now that are like going into high school, they'll be like, man, just from like the Pop Warner to the high school level is even a transition, because they always talk about the speed of the game. And then I've talked to professional athletes like yourself, and they always talk about the speed of the game. So going from high school to college, you talked about cover 3s and all the different coverages that you had to deal with. But outside of like maybe the speed of the game and the game itself, what would you say is the biggest transition going from high school to being a student athlete in college? Was it the schedule and having to go to school and all this stuff and get, be disciplined? Like, what would you say, Jake, was your biggest transition going into college?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing, for me, it was just like I was just eager and excited. Like, I'm coming into camp, I'm competing for the number 2 job, and here I am, and this is what I'm doing. And it was never hard for me to go work. It was never hard for me to strap it on and get ready and practice really the same that I would play. I didn't really have a practice speed and a game speed. Like when I was going at it, I was doing it. And that was even so much as in competing, playing Yahtzee, like I'm in it, 100%. And so, the biggest thing really is accountability, and if you can feel the importance of what your role is, not only to yourself, but what you have to honor for your team and what people are expecting of you, that those expectations create either resentment where you back away and feel like too much, or your accountability becomes even more like, okay, I got to ASU and I already automatically felt a sense of like, I think we can be better than we are. And, I went to ASU too, because I had not heard about ASU at all. I mean, the only time I'd seen ASU Sun Devils was in the 5th grade when Jay Bradley got sent home because he had the Sun Devils shirt on, or then the 4th grade. And our teacher said, you can't wear a shirt that says the Devil's name on it. And send him home to change his shirt. So that was the only thing I could remember as like the Sun Devils. I'd never heard of them in the top 10 or top 25. And I was like, I always felt like if I go somewhere, I want to leave a lasting like impression. Like I want to go and turn around a program rather than just be another another guy that came through on a national championship caliber team that, maybe he was good, maybe he wasn't. But when I went to ASU, it was really to try to turn that program around. And when I left, wanted it to be in good hands and progressing. And sure enough, we did that. But yeah, getting there to compete and be accountable, and then to balance what life is like when you're not, your mom's not there to back you up, or your grandma doesn't live across the street to make you a meal because your mom's working. Like, you had to take accountability and grow up. So that was really a challenge, but it was like, I met that with, all right, cool, I'm here and here's my opportunity. And I want to turn this place around. So my work ethic was really what got me through. When it was time to run sprints, I was running them 100%, whether it hurt or I was tired or not. And that became infectious. And then more guys stepped up, and more tone setters were not afraid to step up and say, let's go, and maybe not even say a word, but just step up and go, no matter what. If it was 6 a.m. mat drills, or they were making us get up and work our asses off in the morning. Okay. All right, coach, you're going to do this to me. Well, I'm going to spite you by going harder than you could ever imagine. That was my way to get back at them. Instead of being mad and pouting and not working hard, it was like, okay, I'll work harder. And they loved it because, I was able to set that tone. And sure enough, as guys started joining in, by the time my senior year came around, we knew we had a team. We knew we were going to do it. We were going to put in the work, and we were going to make the effort, and we loved and cared about each other. And so it was a learning process, even to go through our sophomore year being 3-8 and questioning why the hell I'm putting in all this effort. Like, why would I want to do this when we're 3-8 and we get 7 guys drafted and we're 3-8? Like, what the hell? I can't be working and not have everybody with me. And that's when my mom said, you just keep doing what you're doing and you'll know people will join you. Don't give up. Just keep doing what you're doing. And so sure enough, we did. And that 96 season was remarkable.
So wild. Like, it's taking me back to my early childhood, because I was born in 88. And I remember, this is when I started watching footballs when I was 7, 8 years old. So I know what you're talking about, because it brings me back to my 7, 8 year old times of
Nice.
watching Saturday football and stuff. And it's just super, super cool. So back then, and what's also interesting, you've talked about a couple things. I take notes whenever you're talking. I have my phone out and I'm taking notes on it. And I would encourage anybody to do the same thing, because I'm like, if you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook, take notes. It's you can get some golden nuggets out of it. But one of the things you mentioned, Jake, was that you always stayed active. So that was a little earlier. You said, you didn't hit the weight room in high school, but you always stayed active. You were always doing something active. And then you talked about your work ethic in college. Staying active was huge. So that was one of the things that stood out to me that you're talking is you always were active. So you gave 100%. You led by example, even when things were tough. And that kind of got you through, and it helped you build. I think in today's world, we have an instant gratification mindset. Everybody just wants that instant gratification. They don't want to put in the grind because they can't see the reward at the end of it. And it's never guaranteed, but they don't want to keep going. And it's cool that your mom had shared that with you. First off, everyone listen to your moms, or a parent. But I would say my mom always gives me good advice, even if I don't agree with it at the time. It always ends up being right. And Jerry Stackhouse actually once said the same thing. So that's what's funny to me. That's a common theme.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to ask, because, the other thing you said was you wanted to make, a lasting impact. You want to make an impact. So Max Clark, who is a local kid who played football here, he's now at Arizona State. I think he's, low on the depth chart, but he's still there. He's still part of the program stuff. And he took a picture the other day and posted it on Instagram. And there's a couple quarterbacks on that wall in there, and you're one of them. And so I would say that you definitely made an impact there, because Jake Plummer's name and picture is up on that big old wall. He's in the quarterback room, and you definitely made an impact. So
I saw Max a couple weeks ago when I was down there, and I just encouraged him to keep doing his thing, man. Do whatever else you can do. If you need to be a holder or learn how to punt or whatever, man, that's all I ever tried to do, was as much as I could and some. And it's cool. Capitol High grad, kid from Boise, followed kind of like Taylor Kelly. Taylor watched me growing up and went down and had a phenomenal career down there. But yeah, man, I'm still shocked when I go out into the field and see my name up on the building. It's still kind of like, whoa, can't we just put 96 Sun Devils on there instead of my name alone? Because that was my team, and my guys helped me get up there. But it's definitely an honor, and it's cool to hear a little, kid like Max that's down there and following his dream.
Super cool, man. It's just wild. Like all these little random connections go full circle. So, Jake, if you look back in your college experience, a lot of it, ups, downs, and everything in between, I guess, what would you say is your top memory, like your favorite memory or favorite game from playing at Arizona State?
Gosh, it's hard to pick just one. We had so many great games. Some of the ones we lost were the best to motivate us to get better. Twice losing to the U of A in the last game when we knew if we won, we were going to a bowl game. That was really hard. Losing some quarterback coaches every year. I mean, I had 4 different QB coaches in 4 years. When Hugh Jackson left, I was just, it was hard. And Bobby Petrino. And, I'm saying names or people are like, wait a sec, that was your quarterback coach? Yeah, they were NFL head coaches. So, I got them early in their career when their knowledge, they were working with me. So I learned so much at ASU and how to play football, how to be a quarterback, how to work my drills. But the one that really stands out the most is probably Nebraska. We'd beaten Washington, and we had an easy game against, I think, UTEP the next game at home. And here comes Nebraska, who we had played the year before, and they beat us like, I don't know what the score was, 56 to 21 or 28. I can't remember. But listen to that second one, 28. Like, we put up some points on them, and it wasn't cleanup points. I mean, I took my team down a few times and scored. So we weren't scared of them offensively. We just didn't have the defense yet. So changes we made, a couple players that came in, Derek Rogers most notably, changed the tone on defense. And so we went into that game pretty confident. What really stood out was the fact that it was a sea of red going to the game. We had a team players only meeting the night before because in our heart of hearts, we even felt like maybe that our coaches weren't even there to believe that we could pull this off. And we as players, we knew. And what a special time that was to have a players only meeting, to ride the bus to the stadium and have the whole team just like at the windows screaming and cussing because it was like a sea of red. It was like, where's our fans? Who believes in us? We really felt like we were alone, even in our own stadium. The night was a really special night to dedicate the field to Frank Cush. But it was, again, we're honoring the past. Like, what about the present, And so I had a huge moment in the locker room before the game where I basically defiled the program and cussed out, like, who is this Frank Cush dude? Some old mother, you know what? We're honoring him. Like, tonight's about making history, and we're going to make history tonight. Us. Tonight they're going to remember this because of us beating Nebraska. And I told Frank that story, and he loved it. He was a coach that loved fire, so he loved my fire. But that game, going out there and shutting them out and really finally letting people know, like, wow, this team's for real. Like, these guys are players. And then we still had to keep proving ourselves. We had remarkable games against USC, triple overtime, UCLA. We were down by 21 plus, came back and beat them. That was another one of my most fond memories, leaving that stadium and having the bus driver stop and have everybody turn around and look at the Rose Bowl and say, hey, we're coming back here. Don't forget it. We still got work to do, but this is where we're going to end up. And sure enough, it happened. So that year was amazing. I still talk about it today, even though we lost the Rose Bowl. But man, what a phenomenal year. And really the Nebraska game really was, I think, the launching point for our team. I was now a Heisman candidate, and the focus now was on, whoa, who are these Sun Devils? And we had a great team, man. Out of those 22 starters, I want to say 17 or 18 of them actually spent time in an NFL camp, and a handful or two spent a considerable amount of time playing in the league. So we had a great team. Bruce Snyder assembled an amazing cast of characters and talented individuals that were coached well, we loved each other, and we played our asses off.
Yo, that's so cool. That is so cool, man. Like, I love stories like that. That's the whole point of this show, is to kind of learn from people, kind of see what it was like to be part of that squad. That is awesome, man. Jake, as you go from, you kind of hit the peak there, you're hitting your goals in college, and you guys had gotten out of the tough years, and you're getting there. But now the transition comes to the NFL draft, and you're getting into the professional world. And sometimes that transition is exciting because now money's involved, and sometimes a lot of it, so there's a whole nother aspect of life that's starting now. Now school's done, which is great for a lot of people. Like, yeah. So here's the thing, though. From my understanding, I've talked to a lot of people in the last 6.5 years, including Lee Steinberg, who you know. I had Lee on the show and talked with him about some of the people he's worked with, and just he said there's a lot of people that struggle with that transition going into the professional world because it's exciting. It's typically what everybody's goal is to make it to the NFL if they're competing at that level. But then once they get there, can they stay out of trouble? Do they know how to manage their money? Who do they trust with their money and all the other things they've got to deal with? Insurance, financial advisors, agents, this, that, and the third, family members who think they need to get some money out of them and all this stuff, like all the things. And then you got to play the game and you got to compete at a high level. And there's an additional pressure. So we talked about your transition to the college game. What was the biggest transition to the professional game for you?
Man, I think the main thing was just understanding that I'm here. I'm here and I can do this. That was really, along with what you said, and managing life outside the game, that was obviously had its challenges. But, for me, I had a lot of good people around me and a lot of people I could trust. One of them being Lee Steinberg and a guy who worked for him, Dave Dunn, who I worked with a lot, was my agent also. And, I had people in place that helped me, just navigate that new, now not just a 10 or 11 week season, but a 16-week season. And not even just 16, it's like 20 almost, because you're playing preseason games also. So it was a big jump, but it was really nice to have to stay in Arizona. At first, I wanted out of there. And then after I got drafted and I didn't even have to really worry about moving, it was a simple transition. I had a huge already group of support around me with my ASU connections and the coaches and the players that were still there. So, I wasn't alone in a new city trying to navigate that, along with a playbook and the pros and cashing checks and doing all that stuff. I had people around me that helped me. So that was a blessing. The biggest jump for me was just understanding that I could play at the next level. And it all kind of came to in the preseason. We were playing the Raiders and I got to go in and play. And I was just like, I was out of my mind. I didn't know, oh my God, I couldn't slow it down. It was too much. And one of my old teammates, Trey Junkin, who'd been in the league a long time, he came over and was like, "You okay, man?" And I said, "Oh man, it's crazy. I just it's fast. I don't know what I'm doing." He's like, "Just picture yourself playing against a team in college." And so what I did was I went out, I was in Sun Devil Stadium, my home. I've been there for 4 years. And I thought, all right, the USC Trojans are wearing silver and black today. It's just USC Trojans. Because really preseason, that's what it was for me. I wasn't playing against all pros. I mean, I was getting my time as a third stringer trying to crack the team. I was playing against some of the best players in college. I'd already done that in the Shrine and in the Senior Bowl. Now it was just on a pro field. And so I calmed down. I settled into it. And sure enough, it slowed down. And I'm like, all right, I belong here. This is what I want to do. And this is just football. I just got to keep pushing myself and working hard and trusting the guys around me. And, my leadership style was such that the guys around me, they wanted to work hard for me. They wanted to do their best. And, from then on, I got to start halfway through the season. And I didn't look back, man. It was like, am I going to doubt that I'm here, or I'm just going to have confidence that I'm here? And I had confidence, and the guys around me supported that.
That's so awesome, man. There was an interview I had done, Jake, that was with Brad Johnson, who was a quarterback in the league and ended up winning the Super Bowl with the Bucs at one point. Yeah. But when I interviewed him, I asked him about, from a quarterback's perspective, one of the plays in the playbook that he can remember, because I remember there was this ESPN documentary or short that Michael Vick and then Peyton Manning even were talking about the differences between a college playbook and that of an NFL playbook. And Peyton Manning rambled off this play, literally took in my opinion, 17 seconds to ramble off the play. I was how do you remember that? And they were talking about how Matt Hasselbeck used to read his playbook to his daughter to learn it in camp and stuff because he wasn't used to the terminology. Do you remember any of the plays from early on in your career? And is there one that you can recite for us so the listeners can hear how difficult it is to be a quarterback?
Yeah, there's a lot of the plays that I don't remember. I mean, I was one that had to relearn the playbook almost every year. Football, it wasn't something that just clicked with me. It was something I had to study and work hard at. But there was a few plays. I mean, I remember, some pretty wordy ones that weren't that wordy, but once you started putting in shifts and motions and tagging other routes, it could get kind of crazy. But I know that one was like like a zip, trip, double wing right, 76, flanker drive, X comeback. I mean, that's not that long, but it's got a lot of words in it, and you're trying to recite that. And so for me, I was just constantly going over and over and over the plays. I would draw them out every night. Tuesday when I get the game plan, Wednesday would just spend a lot of time drawing the plays out. But yeah, I think the game is interesting. Is like it's hard enough to go compete, and then they haven't quite come up with codes or simple one words that mean the play. And some of that in the West Coast was like that. Like it was really simple. You could just call flanker drive and be in whatever formation you could be in, and everybody knew their job because it was a concept. It wasn't a specific play designed for one player. It was just a concept. It was these guys run these routes, whether you're the X, the Z, the halfback, the Y, whatever it is, formationally, we're going to put you at any of these spots. So you need to know what spot correlates to the route. And it was beautiful when we were running it in Denver. We were killing fools. And then even in 98, when we made it to the playoffs with the Cardinals for the first time in 15 years, and then we beat the Dallas Cowboys, which was their first playoff victory in 50 years. I mean, like I didn't win a Super Bowl, but I kind of relate and actually say that like that year in 98 was almost like the Cardinals winning a Super Bowl because they're still in Arizona because of that year. The vote passed for that stadium. Our team was very loved the cardiac cards. We played in fine style. And so that was that 98 year, that halfway through the year, Mark Trestman started going no huddle, running the West Coast, and we were killing fools. I mean, I was calling plays at the line of scrimmage, and the defense would hear it, and they still could not react. And we were snapping the ball with like 18 seconds left on the play clock, and it was insane, man. That second half of that year, I threw for close to 2,500 yards in 8 games, like we were moving, and then like some organizations don't know how to handle success. We let go of a lot of real key players that after that season signed me to a huge contract. I got hurt in the preseason and we had a really horrible 99, but yeah, that West Coast offense, there were some pretty wordy calls in it, but it really wasn't sometimes the wordy call of one play. It was the play that we would get to if we didn't get the right look. So you had to have sometimes 2 plays in your head and know which one to get to according to the look you were going to get. So it was complicated, man. Like I said, football was always a learning experience for me. I don't have a photographic memory. And so it took a lot of effort and time for me to like get to the level I got. And to be also able to tell numerous young guys like, no, you're over here. And as they're running by, they're like, what do I got? And like, you got a quarter route. Like, good God, I got to know what you got to do too. So quarterback's got to know a lot. That's one of the businesses I got involved in was ReadyList Sports, ReadyList Pro. It's a digital playbook that is designed to learn the nomenclature so you don't have to go through and learn all those words and then also learn where you got to go. And it uses multiple learning styles to get kids prepared to play the game. And it's good for the pros all the way down to 5-on-5 flag football. So, ReadyList, you can check it out online, ReadyList Playbook. And if any coaches out there need help, that's what we got that thing for. But it's, the game hasn't changed much. It's still difficult for a lot of these guys in the league to memorize a new playbook or learn new words that all are saying the same thing. Go down and take a right at 10 yards. That can be an out route. It can be called a flare. It can be called a bench. It can be called all these words, but it is the same thing, so it's just learning that language.
So interesting, man. And you want to know what's funny? I know exactly where I was watching the playoff game. I'm a Cowboys fan. So yeah. I remember I was at my grandmother's house watching the game with my uncle and his best friend. And we may or may not have been a little bit frustrated with y'all.
It's funny. It's funny because we beat Nebraska, beat them 19-0, and they haven't been the same since, And then we beat the Cowboys after that dynasty with Aikman and Irvin and Smith, and they haven't been the same since. So I don't know what it is, man. We took down a couple big powerhouses, and those were the only two really big years I had. ASU 96 and Cardinals 98, and then Denver was, it was successful. We were in the playoffs 3 of the 4 years I was there, and damn near made it to the Super Bowl in '05. So had some fun, man.
Yeah, you definitely did. I want to ask you, there's a lot of athletes, male, female, whomever, when you're playing a sport where you have a coach, sometimes there's going to be disagreements. And you mentioned even in Arizona, like for Arizona State, you had multiple quarterback coaches, which is not necessarily disagreements. It's just that you're learning new coaching styles here and there. It's always changing. And then in the NFL, you're going to go through ups and downs. Coach, you're not always going to agree. But I want to ask you if you have any advice for, younger athletes on how you can deal with that. Still, like, you might not necessarily agree with your coach, just like you might not necessarily agree with your boss at work in the corporate world, right? But how did you go about still performing at a high level and coming in ready to compete, even if you don't agree with the coach or the philosophy being mentioned, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I was one to buy in. It wasn't, hey, this is my thing. It was more like, you're the coach, I'm the player. Bruce Schneider was really strong about that. Players play, coaches coach, trainers train, bus drivers drive the bus. That's it. Do your job, know your role, know your place. Like, don't question authority. And that's really sometimes that's the bad part of football, is that it's like, get in line, soldier, and like, this ain't war. This isn't life or death. But there has to be an order like that, or else, you can say that's where there's a cancer in the locker room, or there's a disagreement that can cause ripples across the team. So as the leader and as the quarterback, I always got along with my coaches pretty much. I mean, I always was right there. If there was a disagreement or something they did that I didn't like, then we would talk about it behind closed doors. But if you're always doing your best and you're working hard, and in your heart of hearts that you're doing exactly what they're putting down, then when there is a disagreement, you actually have a way to be heard and be listened to, instead of being lazy or half-assed or showing up late or just not really being into it. They're not going to listen to you if you have something that's pertinent. So I was always able to just kind of roll and get along. Later on in my career, I realized, like, hey, these days are limited, and I want to win a Super Bowl. So I was a little more vocal about what I needed and what I wanted to have, for me to be successful. Yet I was with people like Shanahan that knew how to do it, and he was bringing in the right people, and he didn't need me to say that. But, we had some disagreements, and like I said, you handle it behind closed doors and let them know, because, at some point you got to understand you're a professional, and I was a professional quarterback. I was going to be kept, and the coaches could be fired. When you're a QB in the NFL, you're pretty much number 2 behind the owner, and then it's the quarterback, and then it's the head coach, because they will fire coaching staffs and keep the quarterback. I mean, here in Bronco country, Russell Wilson stayed, but they brought in a whole new coaching staff. So understand where you stand and the power you hold, but don't abuse that, right? Make sure you are respectful of it. And, I feel like whatever you give, you're going to receive. And what I gave was always 100% effort and love and care for my teammates. And that all came back to me. And even more so now, post-career, I'm getting so much love and respect back, that it's like, carrying yourself right as an athlete and as a human is really important. And especially for young kids to know, going to college now is a chance to make money, make millions of dollars. Once you make that money, are you still motivated? Where's your motivation lie? Is it to make it to the league to make money, or is it to make it to the league to pursue a dream of a Super Bowl and to want to be one of the best? And money can get in the way, and money can cloud your decision making, and maybe sometimes take you away from what it was that got you there. And you forget that it took a lot of work, it took a lot of help from others. And money can be an interesting situation. That's why I don't like the money thing in the college. I don't believe they should be paid. I think they should be, there should be a set aside amount of money for them once they are done with their career, or maybe they graduate, that they can go get later on when they're done, but not being paid right away, because that can kind of sometimes stunt your motivation. You got money, you can now go do this and that, and you get distracted, and you can now go to those concerts or fly to that place. And, what got you to that spot to get that money was hard work. Now, how do you balance that? That's really the challenge these young athletes face now.
Yo, that's crazy. You just checked off one of my questions I had for you by answering that question without even having me ask. So, as we get to the tail end of the interview, I want to wrap up like your professional career by asking you just these. It's a one question, 2-piece answer, and then I want to talk about your business
Cool.
as well. But as you look at your NFL career, I want to know who the best player you ever faced, like an opponent, and then the best player you played with, and just tell me why. I want to know why for listeners.
That's a really hard question, but when you get to play against the Cowboys and there's a primetime number 21 is lined up out there on your receivers, I mean, he wasn't the probably the most all around force that you had to reckon with, different from like a Junior Seau or a Ray Lewis, where you had to make sure someone was blocking them and they were so influential in the game. But what he did as like Dion being basically the best cover corner to ever play the game, that was a lot of fun for me because we'd have game plans to stay away from him, go to the left.
Yeah, I remember that. Like, I don't even think you threw it there. This is the Cardinals. You guys didn't throw it his way once, I think. He kept switching it around, and you guys would throw it to the opposite side every time.
Yeah, man. I think if you watch the film, you'll see I did throw it his way some because I was not going to shy away from that. I mean, I'm in the league and I'm playing against one of the best in the world, and if I can complete a ball on him, that makes me feel pretty good about where I stand in my own vision of who I am in my career. But I didn't go after him, but there were times I threw it towards him. I mean, we're all playing the game. It's unfair to not let someone shine in their greatness also. And so he was definitely one that, like, yeah, playing against him was amazing. I mentioned Junior Seau and Ray Lewis, John Randall, some guys that were just like, damn, they made noise. They were crazy and they played hard. I guess I could probably say Ray Lewis was really the most fun to play against, him and Junior, because they played hard. They talked a lot of shit, but they were like respectful if you played hard back at them and you didn't cower away from that. Instead, I would meet that with my own might, whether it was mustered up through through the pain and the hardness, hard challenge it was to face those guys. But it was like, yeah, I'm here on the field. I'm with one of the greatest ever, and I'm going to show him that I can handle this. And so that was a lot of fun playing against guys like that. Teammate-wise, I had so many great teammates, but I must say that one of them was Aeneas Williams, probably one of the most phenomenal professional athletes I've ever been around. His work ethic, the way he approached the game, the way he challenged himself, the way he was there for his teammates. I mean, he was a phenomenal teammate, phenomenal. Just watching him work and getting to go against him every day, knowing that he wasn't going 70% because he was Aeneas Williams, that he was going 100% in practice. That made me better. That made Frank Sanders better, Rob Moore better. It made every one of those guys that we had going either in practice, in camp, or even at the high schools in the summer when we'd work out. One day stands out. We were throwing routes against the DBs, and it was me and like 5 receivers and a couple DBs showed up. One of them, Aeneas. He covered every time he could. He never took a break. The receivers got tired and left, and he asked me, "Can you stay and throw me some balls, Jake?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want?" He's like, "Just throw it as far as you can. I'm going to run them down." Okay. I threw as many as I could till I was like, "Yo, I'm tired. My arm's done." And he said, "Okay, cool." And as I was packing my bags up, I looked back, and he's starting to run 110s. It's getting dark. Our receivers left 30 minutes ago, and he's now stepping into running 110s after all of this. I'm like, holy smokes, this dude just worked his butt off to where he knew and was confident in himself that he was ready on game day. And he even challenged David Boston to a race. David Boston ran like in the 4.3s coming out of college. And we're all like, whatever, Aeneas. And he's like, "I'm not running you in the 40. I'm racing you in the 100. Because what Aeneas trained for was endurance and to be able to last that whole game and to be his best in the fourth quarter, not the first quarter. They ran the 100 and he smoked him. And it was like, what? Aeneas isn't a 4.340 guy, but it was here, man, and here in his heart. And he just like, that dude was amazing, amazing teammate. Rod Smith, again, an amazing teammate. Larry Sinners, one of the best I ever played with. Ronnie McKinnon, Al Wilson, John Lynch. Some phenomenal players, man, that were just like, you could count on them. Like, I never doubted them ever once not being in it and on it and ready to, whether that's practice or whether that's a walkthrough, or whether that's game time. Those guys were always there, which was really nice. And I feel like I have that respect back from them as being one of their favorite teammates too. And that's just because we were infectious. We helped each other get through it and set the tone.
And iron sharpens iron for sure, dude. It's just hearing that is like, wow. I can't wait to like when this interview posts, it's gonna be. There's so many people who are gonna listen to this and be like, Shane, I already know. I know the text messages that are gonna come through. Like, I remember these things. This is so cool. So, one of the things I love, Jake, is watching athletes as they transition out of their careers and seeing what they do afterwards. And I've always been intrigued with what you've got going on. And then obviously I've seen the most recent ventures that you talked about. But you talked about Ready List. You've been part of the medicinal marijuana stuff like CBD and hemp and whatnot. And then there's also functional mushrooms. And so I want to give this opportunity to you to kind of share with the audience what you're doing right now with functional mushrooms and help them understand like how that helps the body and whatnot.
Yeah. It's been interesting where my life has gone post-career, retiring, moving out of Denver, living in North Idaho, Sandpoint, on 48 acres, just to decompress from all that I did for 14 years, the pros in college. I needed some time away, and then coming back to Colorado, struggling with my health, like having some surgeries and starting to doubt what the hell did I put my body through this for? If I'm this beat up and I'm only like 36 years old, 35 years old. And so then that's when, the chance to work with hemp and educate people on the difference between, marijuana, THC, and hemp and CBD. That was a really big exploration for myself. And I was raised holistically. My mom was always into the holistic medicine and definitely not giving me NyQuil at night, but giving me garlic and honey, to fight a cold, those kind of things, and echinacea and, feeding me well, and a lot of vegetables and a lot of good food. So I'm grateful for her influence. And as I stepped into Charlotte's Web, it was amazing to feel what it did for me first. That was the first thing I did was, well, let me take this. And if it helps, then I can speak on it. And it helped. It helped a lot with the pain I was feeling, the headaches I was having, and my just day-to-day function, sleeping better, resting better. So that opened my eyes to like, wow, there's a lot out here that people don't know about. And my buddy Dale Jolly, who I met with Charlotte's Web, just right before the pandemic, sent me some mushroom tinctures, some functional mushrooms. And again, it's an education process, because talking hemp, everybody was like, oh, we're here with pothead stoner Jake Plummer, and I'm like, well, can you reintroduce me and talk about, like, I'm not a pothead or a stoner. And even though I do like the medicinal value of marijuana and THC, I'm here to talk about what hemp is doing for these children with severe seizure disorders. Like, this isn't talking about staying in your basement, binge watching, Family Ties and eating Cheetos. This is about, like, what is this plant here on earth for? Can it help us? And it was helping these kids, and it was these mothers that were fighting for the right to do this. And as a football player with numerous other guys stepping up, we had people listen. They started listening, and then they started researching, and then they tried it, and they went, wow, okay, these guys are onto something. And I'm not the guy behind this. I'm just a voice. I'm a conduit for this knowledge to just be something we remember. Not that I'm inventing or coming back to something new. This is ancient. It's been here forever. And that's why I get to the functional mushrooms. These things, this organism has been around forever. That's an entire kingdom in and of itself, the fungal kingdom. And I call it a queendom because I believe it's kind of like a mother. It just knows what our bodies need. It helps us function at a different level. They're some of the most powerful adaptogens on the planet. And adaptogens mean it helps us balance out anything that's out of whack, that's not right, that could be out of balance, that needs help. And somehow, some way, the knowledge and intelligence they have as an organism, it just really resonates and helps humans function better. And I'm a firm believer because it's helped me. I don't have any inflammation anymore. My body does not ache. My mind is getting clearer day to day. I sleep much better. I feel like I've almost slowed down the aging process because a lot of us are out of balance with the way we think, the way we speak, what we watch, how we carry on day to day, and then the constant drive to always be the best. It's stressful. There's anxiety. There's all this dis-ease that we create ourselves. and sitting back and being on, using functional mushrooms. And I have to say also going on some spiritual journeys with other plant medicines and nature as medicine has opened my mind up to like everything around us and the beauty of it and the balance that's there that Mother Earth provides. And, it's been a really, really awesome exploration into, can I slow the aging process down? Can I not be another statistic for the NFL to talk about, post-career, you're going to have TBI. You had TBI. You're going to have, guess what? Look forward to having CTE. You better file for disability. We're going to deny you and deny you and deny you until you can prove to us that you can't get out of a chair. Like, fuck that, man. No, that's not the narrative that I'm following. Why? Because I've watched myself use this in my heart and gather with guys and do amazing things, like be the best in the world. I was the best in the world, one of the best in the entire world at what I did. Why? Because I set my mind to that. So these guys that are done with the game, I'm hoping they turn to something that is provided by Mother Earth that is helping me. Now, will it help everybody? I can't make that claim, but it won't hurt to try. And so starting Umbo, our functional mushroom company, really was more centered around a cause, not around, let's profit from this organism that's been here since who knows when, let's center it around a cause to help people heal and face their day-to-day functionality in a different way and optimize this little short time span we have on Earth to be the best we can be and live better and treat each other more kind and be cognizant of the damage we're doing to Mother Earth, which is all we really have to lean on. And so it's been a great journey. I've met a lot of amazing people. More people are starting to be curious and like, hey, wait, Jake was on this hemp thing with his teammates and guys way before it now is so common. Maybe he isn't just some, out of there esoteric spiritual dude. Like maybe maybe I should listen to this. And so people are starting to come to it, and it's awesome to be driving this to open up people's awareness of what's out there. And through Umbo and the guys I'm partnered with, Rashad Evans, a former UFC fighter, Hall of Famer, is a partner in this who is an amazing human also. We're just hoping to help people be open to make the change they need to live better. And it's an exciting journey. It's led me to be able to become a mushroom farmer at Mycolove, which is really cool. So, there's 2 companies I have that are trying to make positive change. And I'm just blessed to be, one person behind it, just like I was on a team. I was the quarterback. I may have been driving the bus or had the keys or whatever you want to say, but I had to get the right people to follow me. And I'm getting, people coming out of the woods that are all thinking the same thing. And, with that belief, I believe true change can happen. And it's just fun to be a part of it, man.
Yo, that's so cool, man. I love that. I appreciate the insight there. So for the listeners here, if you guys go to getumbo.com, if you guys are interested in, purchasing some of the products and maybe learning a little bit more about all the different types of the functional mushroom products that Jake and his team provide, go to getumbo.com. I'll put it in the description here. Now, Jake, you did mention earlier a potential code. Can we utilize a code for those who are listening if they're interested in purchasing a
Definitely.
product?
We'll go GTG10 for 10% off your order. So, with Umbo, we provide capsules. If you like capsules, there's a Myco Rise that helps you get focused, get clarity, and have some energy with the use of the cordyceps mushroom, along with a few other compounds that are being shown to help slow the aging process down, like bio-NMN. Some good stuff. These are scientifically formulated by some people that know what they're doing. Not me. I just take it and benefit, but they got the right people behind it. And then the Myco Rest is something that helps with your sleep and your rest and helps you recover during that important time of rest, to shut it off, to regroup, to replenish, to let your nervous system calm down. And we use reishi and lion's mane in that formula, which are 2 more functional mushrooms. Again, non-psychedelic, fully legal, sold in stores that So it's again educating the difference, so people know that these are not psychedelic hallucinogenic mushrooms that'll send you on a journey. Although there's a lot of healing being done with the use of psilocybin to help treat alcoholism, to help treat depression that isn't being helped with the medicine and the doctors that are there, anxiety. I mean, there's a whole slew of disease that the mushrooms are helping with. So yeah, get Umbo. We have bars that are really good, nutritional bars, and then also some tinctures. And then MichaelLove.farm is also the farm where we also sell tinctures. And they have, we grow the mushrooms and extract them here in Colorado. And we're trying to become a good supply of a domestic product for other people that want to maybe start their own company or white label it or whatever it is. And so, I'm following the mycelial path, man. The connections that you make, and the mushrooms are just there to lead me and teach me, and continue to follow what intuitively and instinctively comes my way. Again, just to help do good in this world. And I think it's our responsibility as humans to do what we can, not only to help the earth and help the world, but first help ourselves, to love ourselves, to speak kind about ourselves, and to do what we know is best for us while we're here in this short little time period.
Yeah, this has been amazing, Jake. I'm seriously so stoked about all of this. So I'll remind everybody who's listening, make sure to check out the description here. I'll put it there, getumbo.com. We'll put the GTG10 coupon code if you guys want 10% off. I'm going to check it out myself. And then one last note that you mentioned multiple times, you even mentioned your mom again. She was always, helping you out holistically with the medicines and stuff. You know what, guys? Listen to your moms. If you're blessed enough to have one around, and I mean that seriously. If you're blessed enough to have, your parents with you or a good mentor around, a guardian with you, maybe take some advice from them. Maybe see how they're doing, because they probably know more than you. And it sounds like that's been a huge influence for you in your life, Jake, from the beginning all the way through now. And
yes.
It's actually just really cool, something to note. But just want to say thanks again, man. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me and share your knowledge with us. And I look forward to following the rest of your journey, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, Shane, thank you, man. I appreciate you reaching out. And you're there in Idaho, man. That's a near and dear place to me. That's my home state. And I appreciate the opportunity to share my journey, man. Keep doing the good work.
Appreciate you, brother. And for all those who are listening, if you guys enjoyed it, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you thought of Jake's story, and we'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.